to hit record and unmute everybody, or mute everybody if you want to unmute yourself, Lawrence.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. Friday, December 3. The slaughterhouse of failure is not in our destiny. We will persevere until we succeed. Augmandino with our little modification about us. Most important today, happy birthday, Mike Cook. It's a very auspicious day today. So happy birthday for you.
Thank you, sir. There's someone else on the call, too, that has a birthday today, Dr. McCoy.
Oh, good job. I did not know that. Well, happy birthday, Dr. McCoy. And I hope it's going to be a really, really good year and the best of, or the first of the best to follow. So today we're going to pick a little bit about, you know, the network marketing aspect of this, but we picked a little bit of information from Nathan Ricks as well. And I suggest everybody look on YouTube and find Nathan Ricks. He's got absolute pearls of wisdom, very, very successful person. So the first question we would have today would be, who will you become? Who are you becoming? Network marketing is a journey of personal growth with the possibility of making money and creating a lifestyle of owning your own time. So that's just a base. Dan?
Yeah, you know, like you said before we started the call, you know, we make choices in life. You know, as you said, you choose to live somewhere where it's warm, but we can also choose to be the best version of ourselves. And I think before we make that conscious decision to start any business and that we want to be successful in, we need to really look at ourselves and get to know ourselves. You know, are we the best version of ourselves? For me, it's now. I'm constantly, every day, I want to be better than I was the day before. And I honestly don't think I'll ever become the best version of myself, not in this lifetime. I don't think it's possible to become the best version of yourself in the short time we have here on Earth. You know, we can always be doing things to grow. We can always be doing things to learn more. And how do we do that? We do that by joining these calls, right? We do that by doing our team calls and helping other people grow and become the best versions of themselves. We do that by reading. We do that by podcasts. You know, we have so much technology available to us now that it really doesn't take that much time to do these things. I multitask. So, you know, last night, Lawrence and I were talking about this call, and, you know, he said, let's take a look at this video and we'll come up with some concepts from that. And, you know, so I was going for a walk. I had just dropped one of the kids off at wrestling practice. I said, I'm going to go for a walk and I can listen to this, you know, while I'm walking. So, you know, and I'm walking by myself so I can be introspective. And so I think we all need to be introspective and about what our commitment level is to what we're joining, our commitment level to success and our commitment level to becoming the best versions of ourselves, right? If you believe that you're the best version of yourself, that you're the best that you're ever going to be, you're lying to yourself. It's not possible, right? You can always be better. You can always be more motivated. You can always be more committed. You can always have more accountability. You can always have more honesty. We can always have more integrity. All of these things that we need as leaders to be the foundation of our business.
You know, you said, are we perfect? Well, I'm absolutely perfect in my imperfections. There are a lot of things that I know are imperfect. So I'm perfectly imperfect. So it's a good point there. But the interesting thing is, think about 10 things that we've improved in the last year. Can we think of them? We should write them down. We should, you know, I think when you introspect, Dan, as you just said, introspection, I think this is one of the most important things that we often forget to do because we're always busy in trying to stay ahead of the game in the daily chores of what we do. But I think it's important to periodically just sit down and look over the week, the past week, the past day, the past month, the past year, and look and see, what did we do well? What did we do not so well? How can we improve? And that is in the whole spectrum of life, you know, in our family activities, in our business, in our community, in our spiritual, in whatever it is that we have. That I think it's important that we periodically take a little, you know, come to Lawrence moment for myself, but come to a moment where we can really look and introspect and see, are we the best that we are? Can we improve? Where are we improving? How can we improve? What can we do? And I think, you know, you mentioned a couple of things there, you know, honesty. Nathan Rick said, you know, the truth is always good enough. We don't have to invent stuff. Just be truthful. Be really, really truthful. Integrity. Be true to yourself. No duality in life. What you do in private and public should be congruent. You know, so there's so many things that are worth introspecting and looking in ourselves as to our daily activities and what we're doing. Are we taking, you know, accountability? Are we taking responsibility for our actions? We've got to lead by example. Sometimes we've got to leave the ego aside when we mess up and fess up and see how to avoid the same in future. That's a big thing, you know. We make a mistake and we don't want to really, it's painful to admit it. But I think it's really good if we do admit it, we leave the ego aside and we say, listen, I really messed up with this, man. I need some help with this, or you know, what do you think? And kind of discuss these things, because it's important. And that's what we have teams for, to be able to, you know, discuss our triumphs and our insecurities, our failures. And I love this business. That's why part of the reason why I do this.
Yeah, when you talk about those three pillars, the honesty, the integrity, the accountability, those are the characteristics that we need to have as leaders in an organization that we want to lead, right? You know, to be the foundation, those are the pillars that we need to set on top of that foundation for those to build on top of, right? So, you know, we want to build from there based on our values, our honesty, integrity, and accountability, and then transfer those values to people that we're looking to recruit onto our teams, right? Or find people that have those values. So there's no bad apples that kind of, you know, spoil the whole bunch. So, you know, but that always all comes back to, what are you capable of? Are you the best version of yourself? What does the future hold for you? What do you want in life? Do you want to be the captain of your own ship? Do you want to be the master of your own time? Do you want to set the course for your ship and have others follow? It's all about what you want, what you have, and how you get to what you want from where you are, right? You know, what are you capable of? Have you really thought about that? What do you want? Have you really thought about that? What does the future hold for you? What do you want in the future? What are your goals? Where do you want to go? You're at point A. How do you get to point B? Set those goals to get there. You know, to be the captain of your ship, you need to make that decision or make that choice to be the captain of your own ship, to be the master of your time, to you know, and then imparting that to other people, being introspective about where you are as a person. How, you know, are you the best version of yourself? How are you going to get there? And is that something that other people will want to follow? Are those characteristics that other people will want to be a part of? And so, you know, the other thing is that you need to share that vision as well, the vision of where you're going as a person, where your group's going as a person, where you are as a leader, and where you're taking people, because people want to know what that vision is. So you need to share that vision as well, and realize, you know, letting go of ego as you're doing that introspection, because we aren't the business opportunity, right? The company is the business, is the opportunity. We're just the messenger. we're the one introducing people to this business and, hoping that they see the vision that what we see. So I was watching interestingly, I was watching a video this week, a Simon Sinek talk, and he was talking about, he did a couple of talks, one for Microsoft and one for Apple. And when he went to and listened to some executives at Microsoft, they were all focusing, 75% of those executives talked about their competition. They were talking about Apple. They were fully 100% consumed with their competition and what their competition was doing. When he went and he spoke to Apple, 100% of those executives were obsessed with the future and where they were going. They weren't concerned about the competition. When you have those distractions, those daily distractions, or in that case, a big distraction, it really prevents you from getting where you want to go. And so, we need to get rid of those distractions. We need to set the course for our own ship and share the vision of where we're going.
Dan, 100%. Add to that the fact that the beginning of it is you got to know what you want. Everybody's got to know what they want. And that the three questions that I've always asked is, who are you? How well do you know yourself? And what do you want? Those are three so simple questions. They're very complicated answers. But this all comes down to, what do you want? And in the case of Apple or Microsoft, they were looking at an end game, but they were focused on different ways to get to what they thought was the right way. And I think if we stick to what we know that what we want. What do we want? We want to have time freedom. We want to have money freedom. And those go hand in hand. We don't want to have stress. That's a big one too. We want to have security. A lot of the people that right now in their businesses and so on are fretting because they may not be in the same job in another 3 or 4 years' time. We don't have that issue. We've got to have the peace of mind, the serenity. So what we want, and this is important, then if we look at what the company offers us, we've got all the tools we need. We've got the science, technology, innovation, we've got a seamless operation, punctual payments, quality products, transparent accounting. What else do we want? It's all done for us. We've got our back office, we've got virtual website, we've got products that we can offer. We've got a market that is right now ripe for major changes, and we're seeing it, we're in it, we're witnessing it. So they're really exciting times. And if we focus on the excitement of the passion which we have, then people want to have what we've got. They want to share the passion. So it's not sales, it's just sharing a passion. People they want to follow leaders, successful people. And honestly, there's no excuse at all for us not to be successful in this business.
Yeah, like I said, the company is the opportunity, and the company, luckily for us, the company has been doing all the right things. They have the right products at the right time. We have a technology where we can prove that our products actually work. They do clinical studies on their products. We have a fantastic anti-aging technology called AgeLock. We have all of these different things that once you make that commitment to engage in this business and have more in life for yourself, whether it's time or money or whatever it may be, once you make that commitment, there's no reason you shouldn't be successful. We have great leaders on this call, on this team. We have great products. We have a great technology. We have all these different things. So that's what we can to bring to people, is talk to them about the company and what the company has and what that opportunity is. And the people that see that vision are the people that we want on our team, along with that integrity and accountability and trustworthiness, right? And we want to be all those things to people that we're talking to about this business. And, not only do we want that for ourselves and the people that are joining our team, that trust, that accountability, and that integrity, we also want that from our company, right? And we have that. I haven't seen anything from the company that's told me otherwise. You know, in 3 years with the company, they have that. They have the honesty, they have the integrity, they have the accountability that when things aren't going right, they're going to take ownership of it and try to fix it, right? And so, you know, there's all these great things about the company that we should be talking about. It shouldn't be about us. It should be about us as leaders, but it should be more about the company, right? And the people that we're bringing into this business. If we bring professionals into this business who have that commitment, who have that that need for something greater in their life, you know, we're going to be able to build something very, very solid for the future. You know, in med device, and I hate keep coming back to this med device. I've got all these med device friends, and they're still in med device, and they're like, "Oh man, you're so lucky you got out of med device. I hate it here, but you know, I need the paycheck." You know, and I'm like, I'm not lucky. I just made the commitment. I found something that I was passionate about, that I could be truthful about, that I could have integrity, showing to other people, and then having accountability for myself and for what I'm telling people, that trustworthiness. The truth should be enough, right? And, you know, I made that commitment to myself and to others around me that I was going to get out of med device because I felt it was a toxic environment, wasn't allowing me to grow the way I wanted to grow, wasn't allowing me the lifestyle and all these other things that I wanted. So I made a conscious decision to get out of it and build something else where I could have those things that I wanted in life. You know, and it's a choice. Like Lauren said, it's a choice. You either choose to stay in the situation that you're unhappy in, or you choose to get out of it and create something else. And I have these talks with medical device reps that I know on a daily basis. And, you know, they're like, "Oh, I'd love to do that, but I just can't right now," you know? And it's like, well, you can, you're just making a choice not to. And if you're making excuses are just lies. You're lying to yourself. Right? You can make that choice. You're just choosing not to.
And it all comes down to the belief in yourself. You know, we're all in a comfort zone of wherever we are. Sometimes it's a comfort zone of mediocrity. Sometimes it's a comfort zone, just a comfort zone of okay, maybe we're even successful where we are, and probably we are successful. But if we really introspect and we think about it and we say, well, in 5 years' time, am I going to still have this cushion of comfort where I'm at the moment? What's changing? And we look around, we say, well, yeah, there's going to be some major changes. Then it's no good kicking the can down the road and saying, well, I'll do it when the time comes, I'll change. Then you have to change, and that's not a good idea. It's not a good idea to have to do anything. It's a better idea to choose to do something when even it's uncomfortable to do it. Be uncomfortable in the choice of doing something that is new and exciting. And it might even be mentally a risk for you, but that's an exciting thing when you can say, well, you know, I've got the possibility of doing something that's going to be much better than where I am right now. But it takes courage to do that. And courage is something that we all at some time should experience or will experience, which is kind of the opposite of fear. We've got to have absolute faith or security, faith in our minds of what we can and will achieve if we set our minds to it. This is the whole point of these calls on Friday. It's about mindset. It's about how understanding what we want and how we want it, and weighing up all the things that we have that are positive and all the things that we have that we can improve. And it's about embarking on that journey of something better, something new, something that's going to take us to new horizons, new frontiers. And this is what can do with this. We've got an unlimited resource of people in the world. In fact, even if we just limit, never mind the world, to the cities where we live in, in the case of we're doing Farm and Eggs, we've got New Skin Pharmaceuticals. We've got the healthcare professionals. We've got the skin products. We've got the social media. We've got Nourish the Children. My God, we got so much, so big a menu to choose from. And it's just a question of making a decision and then acting on it. Act on the decision, but have complete faith in yourself, know what you want. And, Nathan Ricks decided when he started this business, in fact, he said he was not going to allow negative people near him. He wanted to make $1 million and never to quit. Those are the three things he decided that he would do, that were part of his cornerstone of what he was going to do. Never quit. So many times we feel we're going to quit. To make $1 million. Well, today $1 million is not what it was in 1970 something when he started, or 1980 when he started. Today $1 million is a hell of a lot easier than it was then. But the tools are the same. Except that we've got more innovation with it. So really, it's exciting times for us.
Yeah, we have so much more now than Nathan Ricks did when he got started, and he still made that commitment, and he still made that sacrifice. When we make the conscious decision to make a commitment to something that's going to get us where we want to be, there's always going to be sacrifice. And you have to be comfortable with that sacrifice. You're going to have to sacrifice. You may not get to one of your kids' soccer games this week because you have a meeting, or you may not get to work out today because you have a meeting, or you may not be able to work out till later, or you may miss dinner with the family. There's all these different things, all these different sacrifices that you have to make when you're really making a conscious decision to go after what you want, or change your life for the better, or reach those goals that you've set for yourself. It always requires sacrifice, and you have to be comfortable with that sacrifice. For 25 years, I sacrificed a lot because I was in the operating room a lot. And I was comfortable with that sacrifice because I had a goal for myself of where I wanted to be financially. And I had made a commitment to physicians that I was working with that I was always going to be there for them and their patients, and when you make those commitments, you have to see those through. And when you see them through, you're going to see success, right? And when you make those sacrifices, and that's the difference between people who are successful and people who are not. People who are successful are willing to make those sacrifices to get what they want and get where they want to be.
Yeah.
So why are you not being committed to that? Is it because you're fearful? Is it because you have a fear of failure, a fear of success? There's all these different fears you can have that are going to cause paralysis. And so that's where that introspection comes in, and knowing yourself, knowing what you want, becoming the best version of yourself. When you're constantly striving to become the best version of yourself, it makes that sacrifice and that commitment a lot easier. And I heard a great comment the other day: be powered by positivity. When you have that positivity, it's easier. Those sacrifices don't feel like sacrifices because you're positive in that moment that you're making those sacrifices, right? You're remaining positive. You're not looking at it as a negative. It's a positive. It's getting you to where you want to be. Those sacrifices are a means to an end, right? Those sacrifices are a way for you to reach your goals, for you to fulfill those commitments that you made to yourself or others, right?
Yeah, you talk about commitment and positivity. It's a perception. Everything in life is a perception. You perceive something as a problem, or you perceive it as a solution, or you perceive it as something that is easy or difficult. That's all a perception in your mind. And if you put it in your mind that you can do it, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. You're right either way. But the commitment to self is what's important as well. When you commit to yourself, and it's like a bit like the flight attendant, says when you're on a plane, put oxygen on you first and then on your kids. I used to say, that's asinine, but it's not. If you can't help yourself, how the hell are you going to help anybody else? And this is what I think it's about. It's about us making the commitment to ourselves to achieve what we set out to do, to act, to actually do it, so that we can eventually put oxygen on other people. We can eventually help other people. I see Dr. Couples has got a question. You want to unmute yourself and ask a question, Dr. Couples?
Oh, no, I was just going to add a comment. I actually had a couple of rough days, and I somehow or other came across the book, Go for No, but I bought the one for network marketing, and I don't know what the other version's like, but this one was literally life-changing for me. I mean, it was like the book I needed to read months ago. And it kind of goes along with what you were saying. It's not who you think you are, it's who you think you're not. And I was thinking, I'm not a salesperson. And then I really did some thinking, and I'm like, you know what? We've all been salespeople. I've been salesperson my whole life. I mean, I had to sell myself to schools, to med schools, to residencies, to jobs. And then when I got to be an orthopedic surgeon, I guess I look young for my age. People would say, are you even old enough to be a surgeon? How much experience do you have? And I'd have to tell people. And I got to the point where, because I was in the Boca Raton area, where people from New York would tell me, well, my surgeon up in New York thinks I should do this. And I said, well, look, you waited 2 months to see me. If you think he can do a better job and he has better, I don't need, you go ahead and go see him. I don't sell myself to anybody. I'm not forcing you in. And I think one thing from this book that I now recognize that I think I was doing was my verbiage and my wording to people was being more pushing than pulling someone along with me. And just by changing some of my verbiage and reaching out to, I think in the past 2 days, over 100 people, and realizing now that no only means no, and only means not yet, and that the average person takes 4 no's to get to a yes. I already have people that have seen this months ago that are saying, hey, I like this. Like, why didn't you show me this sooner? And I'm like, I did show you it 4 months ago, but you weren't interested. And, my friends actually, and my parents, they're not really big on this. My friends are like, you've done a lot. You don't need this. You're successful. You have almost everything you can want. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. I don't need this, but I want it. And I believe in this. Ask Mark Wahlberg or ask, anybody who has more money than they'll ever could possibly spend, why they keep looking for more. It's because of the challenge. And for me, this is like, I'm not going to fail at it, and if anybody else in this book can do it, then why can't I? So, I really thought that book changed I had the most productive day ever yesterday. And, I think it's paying off this morning. So those are my 2 cents.
Thank you. You just said something that I think is very, 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 all of it was relevant, but something that stood out was the difference between need and want. If you need something, sometimes your objectivity may be clouded. If you want something, then you don't have any distractions because it's not a need, it's something you want. So I think there's a clear distinction there as well. So congratulations for having a breakthrough. And that's why we encourage reading a lot as well. We had a call on Tuesday where everybody was invited from Dr. Tracy Jones, and she was talking about the importance and the necessity to read. And this is exactly a case in point where you actually didn't need to read, but you wanted to read, and you came across a breakthrough with that. So well done.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point, Lawrence and Garrett. I would encourage anybody who hasn't seen it. We did post that interview or talk with Dr. Jones on the HCA website. So I'd encourage you to definitely check that out. It's about an hour. It's well worth your time. There's a lot of golden nuggets in there, and she just did a fantastic job for us. So Lawrence, it's 10:03. Do you want to take some questions and comments?
Anybody has? By all means.
Yeah, if I could just add something real quick about risk. I will tell you that I have learned that without taking risk, you're not going to get anywhere. And there's this inherited mindset out there that the vast majority of people learn from their parents. You learn from their parents. You grow up, you get a job, you work 9 to 5, contribute to your IRA, have 2.2 kids, 2-car garage, and you're going to be well off. And I'll tell you, I have one financial advisor after talking to a number of them and being contacted on LinkedIn. And this is the only guy that told me and agreed with me that diversification is a conservative man's game. And anybody who's ever done anything from Bill Gates to Warren Buffett to Steve Jobs, they all went all in on one thing, and then you diversify. And so until I found that guy that believed what I was saying, every other financial advisor, I tell them, no, I don't believe it. Diversification, it's old school thinking. And they would tell me I was crazy. You have to protect your assets. And now I'm like, well, I'm not the one on LinkedIn looking for people. So, I think that being able to take calculated and informed risks is a huge part of growth. And this for me is a big risk, but, I think knowing that there's other people who've done it and who've been successful at it, and, they're no different than I am, and I'm determined to succeed, and I'm, more motivated than ever. So I just now have to try to get my team to get that same motivation.
By you being enthusiastic and passionate, and automatically people will follow you.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. It's about, you don't have to push anybody. You mentioned push and pull. You don't have to push, you don't have to pull. People will be attracted to your successes, to your story, as it was. We heard the story on Monday night, all of your hardships and how you've overcome them and your mindset and all that. This is what it's about. Leadership is about that.
Yep.
So, and without doing a long thing on it, but I decided when I was 19 that I wanted to see the world. And I took the risk of going to live in places that I weren't even on the map, literally. And for years and years, I went and people said, yeah, I was crazy. What are you going to do there? That you didn't speak the language. It's different cultures, different religions, different food, different everything. But I decided that that was what I wanted. And I think it was the best education I've ever had. I've lived in 13 different countries.
Wow.
I think for me, that was the best education I could ever have, because I learned a little bit about a lot of things.
Yep.
Still know nothing about life. Anybody else got anything? Michael, you look like you're chomping at the bit there.
There's so many points that were hit on. I kind of lost track. I wanted to make a couple of comments. And Garrett, thank you for your words, and Lawrence and Dan for this call. It's a great call today. I also saw that Dan posted the meeting with Dr. Casey Jones that we had in the Healthcare Alliance page on Facebook. I highly recommend everyone watch that. She was a great speaker and really brings some enlightenment to how we get things done. And one of the things we're talking about today is a lot about the company, and we're talking about ourselves. And that's what I found. This was mentioned to me years ago by a leader in the company, that generally people don't do well in this business because of one or the other reasons. And one of them is lack of belief in the product. Okay, well, that's their fault. We can introduce them to this company, which is amazing. The products we have, the scanner, it's all based in science and evidence. The product is fantastic. The other is lack of belief in themselves. That's the real killer here, and the lack of commitment they may put into what they're doing. So those are a couple of points, and I know that that this call is kind of based on a call that Nathan Ricks did years ago. And a lot of people on the call probably don't know who Nathan Ricks is, but he's the largest, I guess, the most successful person in this industry. And he did it with Nu Skin. He's earned over $100 million with Nu Skin doing what we are doing. And we can look to that leadership, that this is what he did is a completely duplicatable system. We work with others that are on these calls that have made tens of millions of dollars. So follow the system, learn the products, follow the system. It's not rocket science. It really isn't, but it does take 100% commitment and devotion and hard work in what you're doing. It's really that simple, though.
And I'll just throw in a little tidbit I got from this book. I guess I was kind of, again, my enthusiasm and my passion for healthcare, for this type of products. I mean, I owned a supplement company myself, so I know supplements inside and out. But I was, instead of pushing someone now, what I'm doing is saying, hey, if I get a no, that's great. I want to tell me no multiple times, but just let me know, who else can you refer me to that might want to, learn step by step how to make extra cash and create a residual passive income flow that, can retire. And I've gotten people that suddenly, have emailed me back like, whoa, wait, I don't understand. What's residual income? Okay, let me explain it to you. So it's just a matter of, for me, was now not saying, pushing this in your face. It was I'm starting to see where you just kind of say, hey, that's fine. But who else do you know that wants to do this and, kind of free themselves up from a 9-to-5 and make extra money? Suddenly people start listening. And I have a call right now with somebody in India, which apparently we don't have. She's from the United States, but she's also dual citizen. And so, she's super excited about this and really believes that this could help people in the Middle East. But I searched, I saw we're not actually really in that part of the world yet, but hopefully that's on the horizon. So
the thing about that, Garrett, is you don't know who she knows here, right? That's exactly, or in one of those countries where we do business. Right. So it's always worthwhile. It's always worthwhile having that conversation. And in that talk, the Nathan Ricks talk, he had somebody, he said it took him 5 years to get somebody to commit to the business and to commit to his team. Mm-hmm. And he's made $10 million off of that line.
Yeah.
On one line, right? So, it's always worthwhile having those conversations. Right. If they say no, keeping in touch with those people, have them say no to you multiple times until they come back and they see the timing's right, Yep. Even Nathan himself, he said it took his brother-in-law multiple times to come back to him to talk to him about this business until he actually saw the vision.
Yeah.
Saw the opportunity.
The statistics, I don't remember them exactly from the book, but it said 90% of salespeople will stop after they hear the fourth no. But statistics show that most people take 4 no's before they'll say a yes. So if you just ask one more time, that could be the game changer.
I think it's actually higher than that. I think it's 90% stop after the first no.
Oh, it might. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, all you have to do, you increase your odds by going for that second no and that third no, right? You get into that top 2% of salespeople, top 1% of salespeople, the more no's you hear.
And I think back to, I don't know if this might date me, but maybe not. But back to when I was a kid and we had to sell you could sell Tom Watt stuff, in a little briefcase door to door and win prizes. And I was determined to be, the top salesperson. And now I think back when I was a kid and I'm like, man, there were a lot of people that told me no, but that didn't stop me. I just went right to the next door. And I was that enthusiasm. And somewhere along the line, I guess with life, you start to associate the word no with meaning, with really negative instead of just, not taking it personally, which I kind of was, and realizing that, it's part of business.
Actually, you've just said something that reminded me of what Nathan Rick said as well. He said, if you do not talk to somebody about this opportunity, you're being selfish if you're scared of the no, because you're depriving them of the possibility that we have. So don't be selfish by worrying about your no. If you're worried about, oh, you're going to say no, I'm going to, then you're actually being selfish. You should really think about the benefits that somebody might derive from this business, even if you suck it up and say, okay, he said no, or he might say no, or I'm afraid he might say no or something, but the possibilities that you're offering are far greater than the apprehension you may have about being turned down. And that's being selfish if you do not go out and actually invite people to do this. In fact, I just add one more. Dr. David Rosenberg in Jupiter, he said it would be irresponsible for him not to recommend the products that we have, considering all the research he's done and what he knows about our products. He said it would be a disservice to the patient if he did not recommend the products. So, I mean, this is get an attitude of really knowing what you got, and it becomes something very positive.
So just to speak to that, to follow up, not necessarily in this world, but in the ortho world, I had a guy and I told him, I said, literally, I have a product that's going to help you. It's going to help your business. It's going to separate you apart from other things. And it was never really a no, but he would never really pull the trigger. So literally every time I was over in that part of the state, I would just swing in and just got to know the staff and got to know him more on a personal level. And one day, out of the blue, probably 2.5 years later, I get an email and it says, Miss Riley, I want you to know that I appreciate your zeal. Okay, I had to actually Google that because I was like, I'm not really sure what that is, if that's a compliment or not. But we would like to go ahead and move forward with you because you have been in here. You believe in what you're telling us, and we now believe that you have our best interest as physicians and as providers for our office. So we're going to give you a chance. So guess who the first person I called when I started doing this business was? Dr. Spurlock. I said, you trusted me then, trust me now. So and he does. And so it goes a long way. So just don't take no to heart. Follow your passion of knowing that the second that they pull their blinders off, and they will, or that they gain your trust, that it will pay off.
That's a real life example of all these different things that we're pulling together about this word no. And so thank you for throwing that in, because I think it gives every one of us the end game, which is, hey, get my ego out of the way. That's what's causing me to possibly be selfish, or it's that darn ego that makes you think that, oh, they don't get it, I'm moving on. As opposed to, hey, I just haven't educated them enough. That's extreme ownership, isn't it? It's up to me. It's up to me to help educate them. That means I've got to put my ego away. They may say no 4 or 5 times. But if I get better at how I do this business, if I present them with additional information rather than just say, want to join? No, I'm going to educate them, do it in a respectful manner. I'm going to put my ego to the side. They're going to say no a number of times. And that example you gave of what they said to you is just a perfect example of really one of the brightest stars you can get in this business.
We all need to be a little more childlike because children are great salespeople. particularly when they want an ice cream. You know what? The ice cream we want is to bring somebody into this business and to help them with the products we have. You know, it's not just about our success, it's about what we can do for them.
Yeah.
Benefit they can derive and their patients can derive.
Agreed. Good job. And yeah, be like childlike. I have no problem being childish. Okay. Dan, have you got any other thing you want to add? Anybody else want to add anything? If anybody's got anything else, please go ahead.
Just a great call, you guys. I mean, I love the nose. It's perfect.
As a man, as a man, well, in my era, as a man, I was used to hearing a lot of no's from.
I don't believe that, Lawrence, at all.
I do.
I'm an expert at begging.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I hope that it was useful, and we'll see you next Friday. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Lawrence.
Great job today. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.